The alarm screamed through the corridors of the exploration ship Frontier as red warning lights bathed everything in crimson. Alex Reed grabbed the nearest wall panel to steady himself as another blast shook the vessel. Sparks flew from damaged circuits while the smell of burning metal filled the recycled air. "3 enemy ships closing fast from Sector 7, called out Tom Walsh from the engineering station. His hands moved quickly across the control panel, trying to redirect power to the failing shields. "Make that 4 ships now," Amy Foster hunched. Over her navigation console, fingers dancing across the star charts. "We've got an asteroid field 2 clicks ahead. Lots of ice chunks and debris. Could give us some cover." Alex studied the tactical display showing their desperate situation. The Vorthak patrol fleet had appeared from nowhere, catching their small research vessel completely off guard. The aliens had been hunting human ships for months, claiming that humans were trespassing in their territory. This, deep in space there. "Would be no rescue coming." "They're faster than us and better armed," Alex said, watching as energy beams lit up the darkness around them. "But they don't know these asteroid fields like we do." The ship lurched violently to port as another blast connected with their hull. Tom's readouts showed critical damage spreading across multiple sections. The life support systems were holding, but barely. Their weapon systems had taken hits too, leaving them with only basic defensive capabilities. "Hull breach on Deck 3, Tom announced, his voice tight with concern. "Emergency bulkheads are holding, but we're venting atmosphere fast." Through the main view screen, Alex could see the Vorthak ships pursuing them like predators chasing wounded prey. The alien vessels were sleek and dangerous, built for war rather than exploration. Their dark hulls absorbed light, making them look like moving shadows against the star field. The Vorthak had always considered humans to be weak creatures. They breathed oxygen like many species, but their bodies were fragile compared to the armored hides and multiple organs of proper warrior races. Most aliens in this sector viewed humans as barely more advanced than animals, certainly not worthy of respect or fear. "Entering the asteroid field now," Amy reported as massive chunks of ice and rock began appearing around them. Some were as small as vehicles, others as large as buildings. The frozen debris created a maze of obstacles that could hide a ship or destroy it if navigated poorly. Alex felt the familiar weight of command pressing down on him. His crew was depending on him to find a way out of this mess. Tom and Amy had followed him on dozens of missions, trusting his judgment even when the odds looked impossible. He couldn't let them down now. "Tom, what's our status on the hull breach?" Alex asked while steering the ship between 2 massive ice asteroids. "It's bad. The hole is too big for our automatic repair systems to handle. Someone needs to go outside and patch it manually, or we'll lose life support within the hour." Tom pulled up a detailed damage report on his screen. "The breach is located near the main power coupling. If it spreads, we could lose everything." The Vorthak ships had slowed their pursuit slightly, wary of the asteroid field's dangers. But they were still closing in, using their superior sensors to track the human ship's movements. Their commander, General Thane, was known for his patience and tactical skill. He wouldn't give up easily. "I'll take an EVA suit and fix it myself," Alex decided. It was the only logical choice. Tom needed to keep the engines running, and Amy had to navigate them through this maze of ice and rock. As captain, the dangerous jobs fell to him. "Alex, that's suicide," Amy protested, turning from her console. "The Vorthak are right behind us. The moment you step outside, they'll have a clear shot." "Maybe. But if we don't fix that breach, we're dead anyway." Alex was already moving toward the equipment lockers where the EVA suits were stored. "Keep us moving through the asteroids. Make it hard for them to get a clean shot." Tom shook his head but began preparing the airlock systems. "The repair kit is in Storage Bay 2. You'll need the plasma welder and at least 6 hull patches. The damage looks worse than anything we've fixed before." Alex pulled on the bulky EVA suit, checking each system carefully. In the vacuum of space, one small mistake could mean instant death. The suit's life support would give him about an hour of air, assuming nothing went wrong. He clipped the repair tools to his belt and picked up the welder. Through the view screen, he could see the Vorthak ships getting closer. Their weapons were charging, energy building in the alien technology that could cut through human ships like paper. But they seemed to be holding their fire for now, perhaps curious about what the humans would do next. "Airlock is ready," Tom announced. "Be careful out there. These aliens don't play games." Amy had managed to position the ship behind a particularly large ice asteroid, giving them temporary cover from the Vorthak fleet. But it wouldn't last long. The aliens would circle around or blast through the ice to reach them. Alex sealed his helmet and felt the familiar hiss of the suit's air recycling system starting up. The heads-up display showed all green lights. His heart was beating fast, but his hands were steady. Years of dangerous missions had taught him to stay calm under pressure. "Opening outer airlock door," Tom's voice came through the comm system. The door slid open, revealing the vast darkness of space filled with slowly tumbling chunks of ice. Stars glittered in the distance like tiny diamonds scattered on black cloth. The beauty of it never got old, even in situations like this. Alex pushed off from the airlock and began floating toward the damaged section of the hull. His magnetic boots would anchor him once he reached the ship's surface. Behind him, he could sense the Vorthak ships moving through the asteroid field, hunting for their prey. The hole in the hull was bigger than he had expected. Twisted metal edges showed where the alien weapon had punched through their armor plating. Air and debris were still venting into space, creating a visible stream that the enemy sensors could easily track. He had work to do, and not much time to do it. The Vorthak were coming, and they had no intention of showing mercy to a lone human floating in the void. General Thane watched the human ship through the reinforced viewing port of his command vessel. His 4 eyes tracked the small craft as it weaved between ice asteroids, venting precious atmosphere through a gaping wound in its hull. The sight filled him with predatory satisfaction. "The humans have stopped running," reported his tactical officer, a young warrior named Crix. "One of them has exited their ship." Thane's mandibles clicked together in what passed for laughter among his kind. The Vorthak had been hunting human vessels for cycles, and he had never seen such foolishness. Every species with spaceflight knew that exposure to vacuum meant certain death. Even the Vorthak, with their hardened carapaces and redundant organ systems, required full environmental suits for EVA work. "Magnify the image," Thane commanded. The main display zoomed in on the human figure floating against the damaged hull of their ship. The creature wore a bulky white suit that looked primitive compared to Vorthak technology. Its movements were slow and deliberate as it approached the breach in the hull. "Should we destroy it now?" asked Crix, his weapon systems already charging. "No. Let us observe how quickly vacuum kills these soft creatures." Thane settled back in his command chair, interested to witness human death firsthand. "It will be educational for the crew." Throughout the Vorthak fleet, warriors pressed against viewports to watch the doomed human. Stories spread quickly through their ranks about how humans died in space. Some claimed they exploded like overripe fruit. Others believed they froze instantly into solid blocks. The truth would be more valuable than rumors. Alex Reed felt the magnetic clamps in his boots lock onto the ship's hull as he reached the damaged section. The hole was even worse up close, with jagged metal edges that had been superheated by the alien weapon. Tom was right about needing multiple patches for a repair this extensive. He activated his comm system to report his progress. "I'm at the breach. Starting repairs now." "Copy that," came Tom's voice through the helmet speakers. "The Vorthak ships have stopped moving. They're just floating there, watching you." Alex glanced up at the alien vessels hanging in space like metallic predators. Their weapon systems were powered but not firing. Something about their stillness bothered him more than active pursuit. But he couldn't worry about alien psychology right now. The ship was losing air fast, and his crew needed him to work miracles. He unclipped the plasma welder from his belt and began cutting away the most damaged sections of hull plating. The tool's bright beam created a shower of sparks that scattered into space like tiny fireworks. Each cut had to be precise to avoid damaging the systems behind the hull. The work was methodical and familiar. Alex had performed dozens of EVA repairs during his years in space. The key was staying calm and focused, treating each step like a routine maintenance task rather than a life-or-death emergency. Panic killed more spacers than equipment failures ever did. On the Vorthak command ship, Crix was studying his sensor readings with growing confusion. "General, the human's life signs remain stable. Its suit pressure is holding steady." "Of course it is," Thane replied dismissively. "Their primitive technology can maintain life support for a brief time, but vacuum will claim it soon enough." The general's confidence came from centuries of Vorthak military doctrine. Space was the ultimate enemy, cold and airless and utterly hostile to life. Even their advanced environmental suits could only protect a warrior for limited periods. Humans, with their fragile biology and inferior technology, should have died already. Alex finished cutting away the damaged hull sections and began preparing the first patch. The standard repair procedure called for overlapping plates that would be welded into place, creating a seal strong enough to hold against internal pressure. But as he positioned the first plate, disaster struck. The sharp crack of a high-energy weapon split the silence of space. Pain flared across Alex's chest as something punched through his EVA suit just below the left shoulder. He looked down to see a small hole in the white fabric with wisps of vapor streaming out into the void. His suit's pressure alarm began beeping frantically in his helmet. "Alex, what happened?" Amy's voice crackled with concern through the comm system. "Someone took a shot at me. My suit's been punctured." Alex's voice remained steady despite the situation. "Looks like a small-caliber precision weapon. Probably wanted to wound rather than kill." On the Vorthak command ship, Crix lowered his sniper rifle with satisfaction. The shot had been perfectly placed to create a suit breach without causing immediately fatal damage. Now they could observe exactly how humans died in vacuum. "Well done," Thane complimented his tactical officer. "That should accelerate the process. Nicely." The entire Vorthak fleet watched as streams of precious air vented from the human's damaged suit. Every warrior knew that such a breach meant certain death within minutes. The creature would suffocate as its oxygen supply escaped into space, or the pressure differential would cause its internal organs to rupture. Either way, the end would come quickly, but Alex Reed wasn't dying. He examined the hole in his suit with professional interest, noting the size and location of the breach. The puncture was small enough that his suit's emergency systems were partially compensating, but not enough to prevent a steady loss of pressure. His heads-up display showed suit pressure dropping from optimal levels toward the red warning zone. In 15 minutes, maybe 20, the internal atmosphere would be too thin to sustain life. That gave him a narrow window to complete the ship repairs and return to the airlock. "Tom, how long until the hull patches are in place?" Alex asked while resuming his work on the ship's breach. 25 minutes minimum," came the reply. "Maybe 30 if we run into complications." The math was simple and unforgiving. Alex would run out of air before the repairs were complete. But stopping now meant his entire crew would die when the ship's hull breach expanded and destroyed their life support systems. The choice was no choice at all. He continued welding the first hull patch into place, working as efficiently as possible, while his suit continued venting atmosphere into space. The Vorthak fleet maintained their watching positions, expecting to witness human death at any moment. Alex finished the first patch and reached for the second one. His breathing was becoming slightly labored as the suit's internal pressure continued, dropping. But his hands remained steady and his movements stayed precise. There was work to do, and the vacuum would have to wait its turn. The second hull patch was halfway installed when Alex's suit pressure dropped into the critical zone. Warning lights flashed red inside his helmet while alarms chimed constantly in his ears. His breathing had become noticeably harder as the thin air struggled to fill his lungs with enough oxygen. Most people would have panicked by now. The natural human response to suffocation was fear and desperate haste, which led to mistakes and death. But Alex Reed had spent years training his mind to stay calm under pressure. Death was just another problem to solve, and problems always had solutions. He paused in his welding to study the hole in his suit more carefully. The puncture was small and clean, suggesting a precision weapon designed for accuracy rather than damage. Smart tactics from the aliens. They wanted him to die slowly so they could observe the process. His suit's emergency repair kit contained patches and sealant for minor breaches, but nothing designed for holes this size. The standard procedure would be to return to the ship immediately for proper repairs or suit replacement. But the ship's hull breach took priority over his personal survival. Alex glanced around at the asteroid field surrounding them. Chunks of ice drifted in all directions, ranging from pebble-sized fragments to massive boulder-like formations. The frozen water had been scattered by some ancient collision, creating a maze of debris that now provided cover from the Vorthak. Weapons. An idea formed in his mind, born from desperation and human ingenuity. He reached out and grabbed a piece of ice about the size of his fist that was floating nearby. The frozen chunk felt solid and cold, even through his insulated gloves. Water ice was common throughout this sector, formed when comets and other ice bodies were shattered by gravity or impacts. Working quickly, Alex pulled his suit's emergency heating unit from his tool belt. The device was designed to provide warmth during extended EVA operations, but it could also melt small amounts of ice for drinking water. He held the heating element against the ice chunk and activated it. The ice began to melt immediately in the focused heat, creating a slurry of water and ice crystals. Alex shaped the mixture with his gloves, forming it into a rough plug that would fit over the hole in his suit. The process required careful timing since the heating element had limited power. On the Vorthak command ship, General Thane leaned forward in his seat as he watched the humans' strange behavior. His 4 eyes focused on the creature's movements with growing confusion. "What is it doing?" asked Crix from his position at the tactical station. "I am not certain," Thane admitted. The human appeared to be gathering ice from the asteroid field and manipulating it with some kind of tool. No Vorthak warrior would waste precious time on such activities while dying in vacuum. "Its life signs are still stable," reported the sensor officer. "Suit pressure continues to drop, but more slowly than our projections indicated." Thane's mandibles clicked together in irritation. Humans were supposed to be predictable in their weakness. They were soft creatures without natural armor or redundant organs. Vacuum should have killed this one already. Alex pressed the ice-water mixture against the hole in his suit and held it firmly in place. The vacuum of space instantly began freezing the water, turning it solid faster than any natural process on a planet's surface. Within seconds, the slurry had become a hard plug of ice that sealed the puncture completely. His suit's pressure stabilized immediately. The emergency alarms stopped chiming, and the red warning lights changed to amber caution indicators. His breathing became easier as the suit's life support systems restored proper atmospheric levels. "Alex, your suit readings just improved." Amy's voice came through the comm system with obvious relief. "What did you do out there?" "Fixed a leak with some local materials," Alex replied while resuming work on the ship's hull breach. His voice carried the casual tone of someone discussing routine maintenance rather than a life-saving miracle. The watching Vorthak crews fell silent as they processed what they had witnessed. Their sensors confirmed that the human's suit pressure had returned to safe levels. The creature had somehow repaired critical damage using nothing but ice and primitive tools. "How is this possible?" Crix whispered, his weapon systems forgotten as he stared at the display. General Thane had no answer. In all his years of military service, He had never seen such adaptability. Vorthak environmental suits were engineering marvels with backup systems and redundant seals. But even their advanced technology couldn't be repaired in vacuum using frozen water. Alex completed the installation of the second hull patch and began working on the third. His improvised suit repair was holding perfectly with the ice plug, maintaining an airtight seal. The heating and freezing cycle had created a bond stronger than many manufactured materials. The work proceeded smoothly now that he wasn't fighting suffocation. Each hull patch was carefully positioned and welded into place, gradually sealing the breach that had nearly destroyed their ship. Alex's movements were efficient and precise, showing no signs of the stress that should have overwhelmed any rational being. Throughout the Vorthak fleet, warriors whispered among themselves about what they had seen. Stories spread from ship to ship about the human who treated vacuum like a minor inconvenience. Some claimed it was impossible, that their sensors were malfunctioning. Others suggested the humans possessed technology beyond their understanding. But General Thane knew better. He had watched the entire sequence through multiple sensor systems and visual confirmation. There had been no advanced technology involved, no hidden equipment or secret techniques. The human had simply refused to die when logic demanded death. "General," his communications officer reported nervously, "several of our escort vessels are requesting permission to withdraw from the engagement." Thane's claws gripped his command chair with enough force to leave permanent marks. His crews were losing confidence, shaken by something that should have been impossible. Fear was spreading through his fleet like a virus, undermining their tactical advantage. "All ships will maintain position," he commanded with as much authority as he could project. "One human cannot defeat an entire battle fleet." But even as he spoke the words, Thane wondered if he was trying to convince his crews or himself. The creature floating outside the human ship had done something that defied every military doctrine the Vorthak had developed over centuries of warfare. It had turned weakness into strength, using nothing but ingenuity and determination. Alex installed the final hull patch and activated his plasma welder for the last series of connections. The ship's breach was now completely sealed, with overlapping plates that would hold against internal pressure indefinitely. His crew would have air to breathe and power to run their systems. He gathered his tools and prepared to return to the airlock, his improvised ice patch still maintaining perfect suit integrity. The repair had taken 45 minutes of careful work, performed under enemy observation while slowly suffocating in the void. For Alex Reed, it had been just another day in space. For the Vorthak fleet watching him, it had been a demonstration of human capability that would haunt their dreams for years to come. Alex pushed off from the ship's hull and floated back toward the airlock, his tools secured and the repairs complete. The ice patch on his suit had hardened into a perfect seal that showed no signs of failure. As he drifted through space, he could feel the weight of alien eyes watching his every movement. The Vorthak fleet hung in space like predators that had forgotten how to hunt. Their weapon systems remained charged but unused, their crews paralyzed by confusion and growing fear. What they had witnessed challenged everything they understood about human limitations. "Airlock is cycling," Tom announced through the comm system as Alex approached the ship's entry port. "Nice work out there. The hull breach is completely sealed." Alex settled onto the airlock platform and felt the outer door close behind him. As atmosphere flooded back into the small chamber, he could finally relax slightly. But the mission wasn't over yet. The Vorthak fleet was still out there, and they would need to deal with that threat before moving on. The inner door opened, and Alex stepped back into the ship's familiar environment. Tom and Amy were waiting for him with expressions of relief and admiration. They had monitored his vital signs throughout the repair, watching as his suit pressure dropped into critical levels before mysteriously stabilizing. "That ice patch trick was brilliant," Amy said while helping him remove the EVA suit. "Where did you learn something like that?" "Necessity is the best teacher," Alex replied, examining the frozen plug that had saved his life. The ice had bonded, with the suit material to create a seal that looked almost manufactured. Water expands when it freezes, and vacuum accelerates the process. Tom was already running diagnostics on the ship's systems, checking the integrity of the hull repairs. Everything looks good from here. Life support is stable and the breach is completely sealed. We could probably survive another direct hit in that area. Through the main view screen, they could see the Vorthak ships maintaining their positions in the asteroid field. The alien vessels hadn't moved closer or farther away during the repair operations. They simply waited and watched, like apex predators unsure of their prey. Alex studied the tactical display showing the positions of all enemy ships. 4 heavy cruisers with enough firepower to reduce his small vessel to debris in minutes. Under normal circumstances, surrender would be the only logical option. But these weren't normal circumstances anymore. Open a communication channel to the lead Vorthak ship, Alex ordered. Amy looked surprised but activated the communications array without question. The main screen flickered as an alien face appeared, all 4 eyes and sharp mandibles. General Thane's expression showed confusion, mixed with grudging respect. "Human Captain," Thane began, his voice carrying the clicking undertones typical of Vorthak speech. "Your survival was unexpected. How did you repair critical suit damage in vacuum?" "The same way we do everything else," Alex replied with studied casualness. "We adapt and overcome. Is there something you wanted to discuss?" The simple question seemed to catch the Vorthak general off guard. He had expected fear, pleading, or perhaps attempts at negotiation. Instead, the human spoke as if they were equals discussing routine business matters. "You were dying," Thane stated flatly. "Our sensors confirmed that your primitive suit had suffered critical breach. Vacuum should have claimed you within minutes." Alex shrugged, a gesture that translated surprisingly well across species barriers. "Should have, could have, might have. I'm still here, and my ship is fully repaired. What's your point?" The casual dismissal of near death sent ripples of unease through the Vorthak fleet. Their crews had expected the human to be humbled by his close encounter with vacuum. Instead, he acted as if repairing life support systems in space was routine. "Maintenance!" "General," came a nervous voice from one of Thane's subordinates. "The Talon Squadron is reporting equipment malfunctions. They request permission to withdraw for repairs." Thane's claws extended involuntarily, a sign of extreme agitation among his kind. He knew there were no equipment malfunctions. His crews were losing their nerve, spooked by a single human who refused to die when he was supposed to. "All units will maintain position," Thane commanded, but his voice lacked its earlier confidence. "We are not retreating from one damaged human vessel." Alex had been monitoring Vorthak communications since the engagement began. His ship's translation software wasn't perfect, but it captured enough to give him insight into enemy morale. What he heard made him smile grimly. "Tom, do we have any external maintenance that needs doing?" Alex asked while keeping the communication channel open. His engineer looked confused by the question. "Nothing urgent. The sensor array could use some cleaning, and there's a minor alignment issue with the port thruster housing." "Perfect. Prep. Another EVA suit for me?" Amy stared at him in disbelief. "You can't be serious. You just survived one EVA by pure luck and ingenuity. Going back outside now would be suicide." "On the contrary," Alex said, already moving toward the equipment lockers. "It would be psychological warfare. The plan was risky to the point of madness, but it might be their only chance of escaping this situation." The Vorthak crews were already shaken by what they had witnessed. Another casual EVA demonstration might push them over the edge into full retreat. General Thane watched in growing alarm as the human began suiting up again. The creature's vital signs showed normal levels of stress, nothing approaching the terror that should accompany a second venture into vacuum. Either humans were completely insane, or they possessed capabilities that Vorthak intelligence had severely underestimated. "What is it doing?" Crix whispered from his station. I believe it intends another EVA operation, Thane replied, his voice tight with suppressed panic. Alert all ships to prepare for combat. This may be some kind of attack. But when Alex exited his ship's airlock for the second time, he made no aggressive moves toward the Vorthak fleet. Instead, he calmly floated to the sensor array and began cleaning the optical lenses with methodical precision. His movements were relaxed and unhurried, as if he were performing routine maintenance in a safe harbor. The psychological effect was immediate and devastating. Throughout the Vorthak fleet, crew members began reporting stress reactions, equipment failures, and urgent needs for medical attention. The sight of a human casually working in vacuum, treating space like a minor inconvenience, shattered their understanding of reality. General, his communications officer reported with barely concealed fear, the Sword of Vengeance is requesting immediate withdrawal. They claim critical systems failure. Another ship followed within minutes, then another. The disciplined Vorthak battle fleet was disintegrating before Thane's eyes, not from enemy fire but from psychological shock. His warriors had trained to fight against conventional enemies, not creatures that seemed to ignore the fundamental laws of survival. Alex completed his sensor cleaning and moved on to the thruster housing, making minor adjustments with casual expertise. He was putting on the performance of his life, projecting confidence and competence while floating in an environment that should have killed him twice already. The ice patch on his suit remained solid and reliable, a testament to human ingenuity that the watching aliens couldn't explain or understand. Every movement Alex made reinforced the growing impression that humans were not bound by the same limitations that governed other species. Sir, Crix reported, his voice cracking with strain, 6 of our 8 escort ships have now requested permission to withdraw. Crew morale is approaching critical levels. General Thane felt his command authority crumbling like sand in his claws. The human had defeated an entire battle fleet without firing a single shot, using nothing but psychological pressure and impossible competence in vacuum. The greatest military mind in Vorthak space was being outsmarted by a single human with a patched EVA suit and ice from an asteroid field. Alex finished his external maintenance and returned to the Frontier's airlock with the same casual efficiency he had displayed throughout both EVA operations. His ice patch remained perfectly intact, and his suit systems showed full functionality. To the watching Vorthak crews, he might as well have been working in a pressurized hangar rather than the deadly vacuum of space. General Thane's command ship hung in space like a predator that had forgotten how to kill. Around him, his bridge crew struggled with equipment that functioned perfectly but felt unreliable in the face of human impossibility. The psychological impact was spreading through his fleet faster than any virus. General, his tactical officer, reported with barely controlled panic, 7 of our vessels have withdrawn to minimum engagement range. The remaining ships are requesting new orders. Thane's claws scraped against his command chair as he processed the tactical situation. His overwhelming numerical advantage had evaporated not through enemy action, but through the simple demonstration of human adaptability. Fear had taken root in his crew's minds like a parasitic growth, but Thane hadn't risen to command rank by surrendering to impossible situations. If psychological warfare was the human's weapon of choice, then direct action would be his response. Sometimes the only answer to fear was overwhelming violence. All ships, prepare for immediate attack, Thane commanded. Target the human vessel with maximum firepower. I want it destroyed completely. The order seemed to break the spell that had held his fleet paralyzed. Weapon systems came online with familiar efficiency, while targeting computers locked onto the small human ship. This was what Vorthak warriors understood, the clean simplicity of battle where superior firepower determined the victor. Alex had barely stepped back onto his ship when the first energy beams lit up the asteroid field. The Vorthak fleet had finally overcome their psychological paralysis and committed to destroying him through brute force. It was exactly what he had been hoping for. They're firing everything they have, Tom announced from his engineering station. Multiple targeting locks from all directions. Amy, get us moving through those asteroids, Alex ordered while strapping himself into the captain's chair. Use every piece of cover you can find. The Frontier leaped forward as Amy engaged the engines at maximum power. The small ship darted between ice chunks and rocky debris, while energy beams carved glowing paths through space around them. The asteroid field that had provided concealment now became a maze of obstacles and opportunities. But the Vorthak psychological breakdown had given the humans something more valuable than cover. During the long minutes of hesitation and crew withdrawals, Tom had been busy restoring the ship's weapon systems and defensive capabilities. The repairs were complete, just as the enemy finally decided to fight. Weapons online, Tom reported with satisfaction. Shields at full power. We're not defenseless anymore. The space battle that followed was unlike anything in Vorthak military history. Their crews, already shaken by witnessing impossible human survival skills, fought with reduced coordination and confidence. Ships that should have moved in perfect formations scattered when Alex's vessel appeared from behind cover, treating each human weapon as if it carried the power to destroy entire fleets. Alex used their fear as ruthlessly as he used the asteroid field for concealment. The Frontier would emerge from behind an ice chunk, fire a few shots at a Vorthak ship, then disappear again before return fire could be coordinated. Each appearance reinforced the enemy's growing belief that humans possessed supernatural capabilities. Direct. Hit on their port escort, Amy announced while steering them between two massive asteroids. They're venting atmosphere and falling behind. The damaged Vorthak ship was the Talon's Edge, one of General Thane's most experienced crews. But instead of maintaining formation and continuing the fight, they immediately began broadcasting distress, signals, and requesting permission to withdraw. The sight of their own atmosphere streaming into space reminded them too vividly of the human who had casually repaired such damage with ice and ingenuity. "This is impossible," Crix muttered from his tactical station. "One small ship cannot defeat a full battle squadron." But the evidence was unfolding before their sensors. The human vessel seemed to anticipate their every move, appearing where it shouldn't be and disappearing before concentrated fire could destroy it. Worse, their own crews were making mistakes that veteran warriors shouldn't make, spooked by an enemy that treated death like a temporary inconvenience. General Thane found himself fighting two battles simultaneously. The first was against the human ship, which used superior knowledge of the asteroid field to maintain tactical advantage despite being outnumbered and outgunned. The second was against the growing panic in his own crews, who saw supernatural competence in every human action. The psychological tide turned completely when Alex made his most audacious move yet. The Vorthak flagship had taken damage from a lucky shot that disabled one of its main weapon arrays. Standard military doctrine called for the wounded vessel to withdraw while other ships provided cover. Instead, Alex opened a communication channel to the damaged Vorthak ship. "Vorthak vessel, this is Captain Alex Reed of the exploration ship Frontier. We're reading critical damage to your weapon systems. Do you require assistance with repairs?" The offer sent shockwaves through both fleets. Humans were supposed to be ruthless enemies bent on expansion into Vorthak territory. They weren't supposed to offer help to damaged opponents in the middle of active combat. On the bridge of the flagship, Thane stared at the communication display as if it contained an alien language his translators couldn't process. The human was offering rescue assistance to the very ship that had been trying to destroy him moments earlier. "How do we respond to this?" Crix asked, his tactical training completely inadequate for the situation. Thane had no answer. In decades of military service, he had never encountered an enemy who offered aid during active combat. The gesture was so unexpected, so contrary to everything he understood about warfare, that it left him speechless. "General," his communications officer prompted nervously, "the human is waiting for a response." Around the bridge, Vorthak warriors who had trained their entire lives for battle found themselves confronting a situation their doctrine had never addressed. How did one respond to mercy from an enemy who should have been showing none? The damaged escort ship, Heart of Conquest, was indeed in serious trouble. Their weapon array explosion had caused secondary damage to life support systems, and they were slowly losing atmosphere. In normal circumstances, they would have requested assistance from other Vorthak vessels while maintaining combat readiness. But these weren't normal circumstances. The human who had just offered help was the same creature who had casually repaired critical suit damage with ice while floating in vacuum. If he could perform miracles for his own survival, what might he be capable of when helping others? Decline the assistance, Thane finally ordered. All ships, resume attack formation. But his crew's hearts were no longer in the fight. The humans' offer of aid had shattered the last remnants of their military confidence. How could they destroy an enemy who offered rescue to damaged opponents? What kind of species prioritized mercy over tactical advantage? Alex had achieved exactly what he intended. The offer of assistance wasn't genuine compassion, though he would have followed through if accepted. It was psychological warfare designed to complete the moral destruction of enemy morale. He was forcing the Vorthak to confront their own assumptions about human nature. Their formation is breaking apart, Amy observed from her navigation station. 3 more ships are requesting permission to withdraw. The remaining Vorthak vessels fought, with the mechanical precision of crews going through familiar motions, but their coordination had collapsed completely. Ships fired at targets their sensors designated rather than working together as a coordinated fleet. Fear had replaced discipline as their primary motivation. Alex pressed his advantage ruthlessly. The frontier darted between asteroids like a predator hunting confused prey, targeting damaged systems rather than attempting to destroy entire ships. Each successful hit reinforced the impression that humans possessed superior tactical abilities and technology. The end came suddenly when General Thane's flagship took a direct hit to its main engine housing. The explosion wasn't catastrophic, but it left the command vessel dead in space with limited maneuvering capability. Secondary explosions rippled through the engineering sections as automated systems tried to contain the damage. "General," his engineering officer reported with barely controlled panic, "we're losing main power. Life support will fail within the hour if we can't restore engine function." Thane looked at his tactical display showing the scattered remains of his once mighty fleet. Half his ships had withdrawn to safe distances, their crews too demoralized to continue fighting. The remainder were damaged and struggling to maintain formation against a single human vessel that seemed to anticipate their every move. And now, his own flagship was crippled, dependent on the mercy of an enemy who had already demonstrated incomprehensible capabilities. The irony was bitter beyond words. "This is Captain Reed, to the damaged Vorthak command ship," came the human's voice through the communication system. "We're reading critical engine damage and power failures. Our repair teams are standing by to assist if you require help." The second offer of aid was even more devastating than the first. Thane's remaining crews could see their flagship dying in space while the human enemy offered salvation. Everything they had been taught about warfare and honor crumbled in the face of such unexpected mercy. "Sir," Crix whispered, his voice barely audible, "what are your orders?" General Thane studied the tactical display one final time, seeing the impossible situation with complete clarity. His fleet was broken, his flagship was dying, and his enemy was offering rescue instead of demanding surrender. There was only one decision that made sense. "All ships, cease fire and withdraw to minimum safe distance," Thane commanded. "Signal the human vessel that we accept their assistance." The admission of defeat was perhaps the hardest words Thane had ever spoken. But as he watched human repair teams prepare to board his flagship, he began to understand that he hadn't been defeated by superior weapons or tactics. He had been outmatched by a species that treated impossible situations as routine challenges and showed mercy to enemies who offered none in return. And The communication channel crackled to life as Alex Reed's voice filled the bridge of the Vorthak flagship. General Thane, my engineering team will be over shortly to assist with your power systems. Consider this a professional courtesy between spacers. The void is dangerous enough without us making it worse for each other. Thane's mandibles clicked together in what might have been laughter or despair. Captain Reed, I must ask, how did you survive in vacuum with critical suit damage? Our entire fleet witnessed what should have been impossible. The same way anyone survives out here, Alex replied. You adapt, you improvise, and you never give up. Ice freezes fast in vacuum, and humans have been using frozen water to solve problems for thousands of years. The simple explanation somehow made the achievement even more impressive. No advanced technology or secret techniques, just human ingenuity applied to an impossible situation. Thane began to understand why his crews had lost their will to fight. 20 minutes later, human repair teams were working alongside Vorthak engineers to restore power to the flagship. The cooperation was awkward but effective, with both species learning from each other's techniques. The humans worked with casual competence that masked their underlying respect for Vorthak engineering, while the aliens watched every human action with fascination and growing respect. When the repairs were complete and the flagship systems restored, General Thane requested a final communication with Captain Reed. Human Captain, you have shown mercy to an enemy who offered none. This is not behavior we expected from your species. We're full of surprises, Alex replied. Safe travels, General. Try not to shoot at any more exploration vessels. As the Vorthak fleet departed the asteroid field, Thane composed his report to High Command. It would be a difficult document to write, explaining how a single human had defeated an entire battle squadron without destroying a single ship. But it would also be the first official recognition that humans deserved respect rather than contempt. The human who sealed his suit leak with ice in seconds had changed the balance of power in this sector of space, not through conquest or destruction, but through demonstration of capabilities that transcended normal understanding. From this day forward, Vorthak ships would give human vessels the respect accorded to equals rather than the contempt reserved for inferior species. Alex Reed watched the alien fleet disappear into hyperspace and allowed himself a small smile of satisfaction. The mission would continue, and humanity's reputation among the stars had just taken a significant step forward. Sometimes the best weapon was simply refusing to die when death seemed certain. The void was vast and dangerous, but humans belonged among the stars as much as any species that had ever left their homeworld. Today had proven that beyond any doubt.